You do not hit what you cannot touch. For decades, that had been the rule of anti-air warfare. If a shell did not strike an aircraft directly, it missed. Steel had to meet steel. Timing had to be perfect. Gunners had to predict speed, altitude, trajectory, solve a deadly equation in fractions of a second. And even then, most shots failed. The sky was too vast, the targets too fast. Every major military believed it. Every doctrine reinforced it. Every training manual repeated it. The Germans believed it when they unleashed a new weapon over England in 1944, a weapon designed to outrun defense itself. The V-1 flying bomb. Fast, small, relentless. A pulse jet engine screaming at nearly 400 miles per hour, flying low, flying straight, carrying nearly 2,000 pounds of explosives toward London. To stop it, you had to hit it, and hitting it was nearly impossible. British gunners fired thousands of rounds for a single kill. Fighters risked their lives trying to tip the bombs off course with their wings. The rule held until it didn't. Because in 1944, one man and one idea shattered everything they thought they knew about the sky.
Merle Tuve is not a soldier in a trench. He is not a pilot chasing enemies through clouds. He is a scientist. Born in South Dakota, raised with a mind wired for precision. By the time war erupts, he is already a respected physicist, specializing in radio waves, electronics, and the invisible forces that move through the air. That matters more than anyone realizes, because by 1940, the United States faces a terrifying question. How do you defend against aircraft that are faster, higher, and deadlier than ever before? Traditional anti-aircraft guns are failing. Even the best crews, even with radar, still rely on guesswork. You fire where you think the target will be, and hope. Tuve refuses to accept that. He begins working with the U.S. Navy on something radical. A shell that does not need to hit. A shell that can think. Inside his lab, surrounded by oscilloscopes and crude electronics, he pushes an idea that sounds impossible. What if a shell could detect when it was near a target and detonate automatically? Not on impact, but on proximity. It would require a tiny radio transmitter inside a shell that could survive being fired from a gun at over 2,600 feet per second, endure forces exceeding 20,000 Gs, spin at thousands of revolutions per minute, and still function perfectly. Many say it cannot be done. Electronics are too fragile. Vacuum tubes will shatter. Signals will fail. But Tuve and his team keep going. They miniaturize components, reinforce them, test them, fail, rebuild, test again. By 1942, they have something that works. A variable time fuse, the VT fuse. A shell that emits a radio signal as it flies. When that signal reflects off a nearby object, like an aircraft, the change triggers an instant detonation. No direct hit required, just proximity. At first, it is used cautiously, carefully, secretly, because if the Germans capture one intact, they could copy it. But by 1944, the stakes change, because the V-1 arrives, and suddenly Britain is under constant bombardment. Thousands of flying bombs crossing the channel, hundreds getting through. London burns, civilians die, and the question becomes urgent. How do you stop something you can barely hit? The answer is about to be tested.
The sky over southern England, June 1944. You hear it before you see it. A harsh, mechanical buzzing, like an angry swarm, like a machine that should not be alive, but is. Then you see it, a small winged missile streaking across the sky at roughly 3,000 feet altitude, speed 400 miles per hour, distance to London, minutes. Anti-aircraft batteries track it, gunners adjust, range closes. 2,000 yards, 1,500 yards, 1,200 yards. Fire. Shells explode around the V-1, but not close enough. The bomb keeps going. Before the VT fuse, this is how it usually ends. But not today. Because now, something has changed inside the shells themselves. Another V-1 approaches. Same speed, same altitude, same terrifying inevitability. The guns open fire. This time, the shells don't wait to hit. They listen. Inside each shell, a tiny radio transmitter pulses outward. As the shell passes near the V-1, the signal bounces back. Stronger, stronger, closer. And then, detonation. Not on contact, but in the air. Close enough. The explosion rips outward in a sphere of steel fragments moving faster than sound. The V-1 shudders. Its wing tears apart. The pulse jet sputters, and the bomb spirals down, exploding harmlessly at a field miles from its intended target. The gunners pause. They didn't hit it, but they destroyed it. Another V-1, another engagement. 1,800 yards, 1,500 yards, 900 yards. Fire. Again, the shell bursts nearby. Again, the bomb disintegrates midair. The sky begins to change. Where once dozens of shells might be needed for a single kill, now it takes far fewer. Accuracy is no longer about precision, it is about presence. If you get close, you win. German engineers begin to notice something strange. Reports come in. V-1s are being destroyed at higher rates. Interception percentages climb from roughly 17% to over 50%, then higher. But there is confusion, because the damage patterns don't make sense. Aircraft are not showing direct hits. Instead, they are shredded. Fragments embedded at odd angles. Explosions occurring just meters away. So, what is happening? How are British guns suddenly so accurate? How are shells detonating so perfectly, so consistently without direct contact? They don't know. Because the answer is inside something smaller than a fist, moving faster than sound, and nearly impossible to recover intact. At sea, the same thing happens. U.S. Navy ships deploy the VT fuse against incoming aircraft. Kamikaze pilots, later in the war, will face it too. Planes that once could slip through defensive fire now explode before reaching their targets. The invisible wall has been created. A wall made not of steel, but of timing and detection. At one critical moment, a barrage fills the sky. Dozens of shells, hundreds, each one searching, each one waiting, each one ready to detonate at exactly the right instant. The result is devastating. Entire waves of V-1s fail to reach London. Some are destroyed miles away, others never even get close. The impossible has happened. You no longer need to hit your target, you just need to get near it. And everything changes. If you find this kind of forgotten history as fascinating as we do, we'd be honored if you'd hit that subscribe button. We believe these stories of genius and innovation deserve to be told, and by subscribing, you help us ensure they aren't forgotten. But the Germans still don't understand. Captured fragments reveal nothing obvious, no simple mechanism, no visible trigger, just shattered metal and unanswered questions. Their assumption that interception requires impact has blinded them. They are solving the wrong problem. And while they search for answers, their weapons keep falling out of the sky.
What they didn't know was that they were witnessing one of the most important technological leaps of the war. The VT fuse does not just improve anti-aircraft fire, it revolutionizes it. Interception rates against V-1 flying bombs skyrocket, eventually exceeding 75% in heavily defended zones. London survives, not because the bombs stop coming, but because most never arrive. The German command grows frustrated. They increase launches, adjust trajectories, change tactics. It doesn't matter, because the fundamental advantage has shifted. The sky is no longer safe for anything that flies predictably, and the impact spreads far beyond Britain. In the Pacific, U.S. ships equipped with VT fuses become dramatically harder to attack. Aircraft losses increase, kamikaze strikes become less effective, entire naval engagements tilt in favor of the Allies. Even on land, the technology finds new use. Artillery shells with proximity fuses detonate above enemy troops, maximizing fragmentation. Infantry units suffer devastating losses from explosions they cannot anticipate. The battlefield itself changes, all because of one idea. You don't have to hit your target. You just have to get close enough.
Merle Tuve never stands behind an anti-aircraft gun. He never sees a V-1 fall from the sky in person. But his work, his insistence that the impossible could be engineered, saves countless lives. Pilots who never have to intercept a bomb, civilians who never hear the explosion above their homes, sailors who never face an incoming aircraft breaking through defenses. Thousands, maybe tens of thousands, survive because of a device smaller than their hand. After the war, Tuve returns to science, quietly. No grand celebrations, no dramatic recognition in the moment. But historians will later rank the VT fuze among the most significant technological innovations of World War II. Some even place it just behind radar and the atomic bomb in its impact, because it changed how wars are fought. To this day, modern air defense systems still rely on the same principle: proximity, detection, precision timing. The rule that once governed the skies is gone, replaced forever. So now, think about that moment again. A shell flying through the air, a signal pulsing outward, a reflection returning, and an explosion, perfectly timed, not by chance, but by design. If this story moved you, please hit that like button. Every click tells the algorithm this piece of history is worth remembering. We're dedicated to rescuing these forgotten stories from the archives. If you want to join us on this mission, please subscribe and turn on notifications. Where are you watching from? Drop a comment with your city or state and tell us if someone in your family served. Thank you for ensuring that Merle Tuve and the thousands of men who relied on his invention do not disappear into silence. They deserve to be remembered.